I think when we last left off, how long has it been? 3-4 weeks since we were here before? It's been a while. I was sick the one Sunday. And I find it interesting and fascinating as I consider the paganism that was rampant. As we will get to later, we'll see that Paul runs against this Greek pagan system of worship over and over again through the book of Acts. But if you're familiar with the French philosopher René Descartes, he said that in every person there is this innate sense of God. There's an innate sense to worship something. And we see that this is true, that even though early on, way back at the dawn of time, man turned away from God and rejected the truth of God, yet he still has within him this desire to worship. So he will create his own gods to worship. Yet, the testimony of God was well known. If we go back into Genesis 4:4-8, we know the story of Abel and Cain. I'll go back there real quick. And it says, and Abel he also brought the firstlings of his flock and the fat thereof, and the Lord had respect unto Abel and to his offering. But unto Cain and to his offering he had not respect, and Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. And the Lord said unto Cain, Why art thou wroth, and why is thy countenance fallen? If thou doest well, shalt thou not be accepted, and if thou dost not well, sin lieth at the door. And unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. And Cain talked with Abel his brother, and it came to pass when they were in the field that Cain rose up against Abel and slew Abel his brother. So we see Abel is, at least as far as the Bible records, there are only 4 people on earth at the time, Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel. And Abel already knows, he's already been instructed, probably from the Lord himself and from Adam, that it is necessary for a vicarious blood sacrifice for sin. This is established, and Abel understands this, and so that his substitutionary sacrifice, the lamb, or whatever animal it was he brought, was the payment for his sins. I think Abel, in a very basic way, understood this. And no doubt, and we see here in this passage that God directly instructs Cain on what kind of sacrifice is required and acceptable and what kind is not. And Cain in his rebellion, he's going to worship God his own way. He's not going to worship God God's way. He's going to worship God his own way. And not only that, he's going to kill the one who is worshiping God in God's way. So Abel is not without excuse because he knows better. He's been instructed, yet in his depravity he has turned against God. And if we go to Genesis 8:18-20, we have following the great flood, one of the first things that Noah and his sons do, let's see, 8:18-20. We'll start with 18. And Noah went forth. This is after the ark has come to rest on Mount Ararat. And Noah went forth, and his sons, and his wife, and his sons' wives with him. Every beast, every creeping thing, and every fowl, and whatsoever creepeth upon the earth after their kinds went forth out of the ark. And Noah builded an altar unto the Lord, and took of every clean beast, and of every clean fowl, and offered burnt offerings on the altar. So one of the first things that Noah and his sons do when they come out of the ark is they offer a sacrifice unto the Lord. And it is, again, it's a blood sacrifice. It's a substitutionary sacrifice. And Noah and his 3 sons understood this. They understood the necessity of the substitutionary death as a way of atoning for sin. So this pictures, to me, this again pictures a basic belief and understanding on the part of Noah and his sons of the necessity for a blood atonement. And again, there's this testimony. I mean, There are only 8 people on the earth at the time when they come out of the ark. Everybody at that time, they all understand this. They all understand it. They all participate, I think, in this sacrifice. And we also see that the truth of saving grace really is known from the very earliest days of man. It is believed by many scholars, or Bible scholars, that the book of Job may be one of the first books that was written, possibly even preceding the books of Moses. And I just want to read Job 19:25 to 26. And it reads, let's see, 25, for I know that my Redeemer liveth, and that he shall stand at the latter day upon the earth. And even though after my skin worms destroy this body, yet in my flesh shall I see God. I think that this is, to me, I love this passage. This is one of the passages that Handel used when he wrote Messiah. It's one of the movements where the female sings, "I know that my Redeemer liveth." I love it, and I think this is one of the great. To me, it's one of the great confessions of faith, and it's an Old Testament confession of faith, and it possibly precedes the books of Moses, so that at the very dawn of time, at the very earliest centuries, I suppose, of human existence, there again is on the part of Job an understanding of salvation. We see that he understands, I think, the curse of death, because he knows he's going to die. He also realizes that his faith is in God. He sees God as a Redeemer. If he understands that God's Redeemer, he understands that he is a sinner and he needs redemption. And he also gives a strong testimony of his faith in the resurrection, and then finally a glorious reward where he will see God. His reward will be he will see God in his flesh as a resurrected saint. And so we have here, again, we have this basic understanding, a testimony on the earth of a basic understanding of justification by faith, of salvation through faith in God, a necessity for faith in God, and that God is the one that's going to do the saving, that Job understands he's not going to save himself. I think we have the kernel of salvation in what Job is talking to us about. Now, I don't know if you guys remember, but I did a chart many years back that I rolled out on the floor, where I tried to chart out the lifespans of all the patriarchs and seeing how they all overlapped and everything. I pulled that out again, kind of look at it, because we see that shortly after Noah and his sons have come out, and they have sacrificed unto the Lord. They have seen God's judgment on sin. We come to in Genesis 10, we come to the account of the Tower of Babel. I was trying to figure out how many generations would Noah and Ham and Shem and Japheth have been alive at the time of the Tower of Babel. I can't find evidence to say that they were or they weren't. I'm suspecting possibly they were, because the Bible tells us it goes through the generations of the various sons of Noah, and Ham's grandson is Nimrod. Nimrod is the one who built Babel, and the Tower of Babel was built in Babel. So it's very possible that Noah, Ham, Shem, Japheth are living at that time. It's possible. I can't say for sure. But still, if they were, there is a testimony of those who saw what God had done with the destruction of the world for sin. These people at Babel, if they had any sense, if they listened to any of the stories coming down from their ancestors, from their fathers, they would have had some understanding of what had happened. But yet, again, they turn their backs away from God. They're going to do things their own way. So they create their own religion, and I think this they call it a ziggurat. This great big tower was going to be the focal point of their basically worshiping themselves. Because what did they say? They wanted to make a name for themselves. They wanted to invade the realm of the gods by building this great big tower. And perhaps they thought, if there ever is another flood again, we'll go to the tower and save ourselves. You know, nobody knows for sure, but I'm pretty certain that the testimony of Noah and his sons was still strong at that point, but yet they decided to worship their own way, and rather than worshiping the true God, they chose to create idols to worship them. And so we come to this point where Paul and Barnabas are, you know, Paul's main thrust now is to the Gentiles. And he's going to run into continually